Deputy Clare Daly. 3.5 minutes.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. Minister, on Friday's Post brought two items to me. The first was the hard copy of this misnamed financial emergency measures in the public interest, and another envelope brought my SIP2 centenary membership card celebrating the legacy of James Connolly and Jim Larkin. And I have to say I had to pinch myself on both accounts. On the first count, because this has got to be the worst named piece of legislation ever. Initially I thought, had you come to your senses, taken stock of the information that is irrefutable, that wealthy multinational corporations pay a pittance in this country, and that you'd finally decided to take some emergency action to deal with it. Instead, we find that no, it's a fancy term for slashing public sector pay, and really has to count as one of the most outrageous pieces of legislation ever brought before this House. And let's be clear, the reason why it's here is that trade union members had the affront to exercise their democratic right and reject proposal put in front of them to worsen their pay and conditions. And rather than acknowledging that democratic vote, this government, which includes the Labour Party, a party purporting to represent workers, decides to repackage, rebrand and force that deal back in front of those workers again. And just in case they might have the audacity to reject that deal again, you bring in a piece of legislation which says, right lads, we have the gun here and the choices are quite simple. You either shoot yourselves or we'll blow your heads off. Well, we absolutely reject that that is an appropriate response in a modern democracy. It is absolutely abhorrent in actual fact. The reality is that this bill gives the government the power to reduce the pay of public servants and increase their working hours. This takes place against the fact that already we've lost 30,000 public sector jobs, and this legislation provides for more jobs being axed in that regard. It provides for increasing working hours, a pay freeze up to 8 years, lower pay for new entrants. It's somewhat ironic that the INMO launched a heroic campaign last year against new intake nurses on 80% of the salary. Only 8 people applied for those 1,000 positions, and now this deal recommends 85% new entrants pay, with the suspension of increments, which applies to those under 65,000 as well if their union doesn't sign up for it, eliminates overtime and deals a solid blow at pensioners. And this is particularly disgusting when pensioners didn't get a say in this. You're talking about cutting the pensions of those under 32,500 pensioners, spouses and so on in public sector. The myth that was perpetrated that the Labour Party in government would cushion the blow of Fine Gael has been absolutely and utterly dashed in this. We have now divide and rule being the order of the day, where trade unions are going in from one sector and arguing that they should cut the pay of another rather than touching them. This is the complete antithesis of trade unionism, of where an injury to one is an injury to all. There should be a solidarity campaign launched against the wealthy in society who've got away scot-free, and I think that we would absolutely recognise that a struggle by public sector workers would be supported by every citizen as the only way to defend the public interest in this country.
Thank you, Deputy. Now, Deputy